again, VC. It's Don back with Seeking a Thread. Going to keep things moving. More videos to get to. Today I wanted to do a sort of special one to me on this day. It's my vinyl origin story. And I tell it because it'd be cool to talk about sort of how I got into records. It's in memory, really, of my dad who passed away 3 years ago today, February 3rd. And it's really because of my dad that I got into records, although not quite in the way you'd think. So I've always been into music, and I got into all the obvious, all the alternative and indie rock in high school. Pavement, Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr. were like the key bands, but in terms of records, at that point I was just getting CDs and tapes and stuff. I was in college. The year was 1998. I was home for college for the summer, and my father, he used to take me as a kid to his aunt's house in Brooklyn on Montrose Avenue in East Williamsburg. My Aunt Samiti, and she was an old Italian woman, and I didn't remember it then, but there was a lot of records in her house. A small apartment, like I said, on Montrose Avenue. It was her son Gigi, my father's cousin. And I used to go there. He used to take me there all the time to visit with her when I was like between 8 and 10, 12 years old. But that was when I was, like I said, 8 to 10 years old. That's in the 80s. Flash forward to 1998. My great aunt who was living there had passed away, and her son had also passed away. He had like a drug problem, and my father was always trying to help him. He was like the only one who had helped him, actually, in all of the family, because everyone thought he was sort of a deadbeat. And he might have been. I don't remember him, but it was my cousin Gigi, and my dad's, like I said, my dad's cousin, I guess, whatever that is, great cousin. So in 1998, my father was left with the task of emptying out this apartment. And this is an old apartment, and I could still smell it right now. And we go there. That day, like I said, summer of '98. I'm home from college. I'm going into my junior year. And he's like, Dominic, you got to come help me clean out this apartment. And I was like, really not looking forward to it. I was like, really? I didn't want to clean out an apartment. It was going to be tough. It was going to be kind of sad, and it was going to be dirty and hard work. And he's like, well, you can take anything you want. Your cousin Gigi would love for you to have any of the stuff. And he was an artist, so there's all these huge murals and paintings. He's like, and there's records. You get into the records, I think. I was like, I don't know. I was like at that point, I wasn't really thinking about records. I was like, really? People care about records? So lo and behold, he made me go. And I went with my brother and my father and a friend of ours, and we cleaned out this apartment. It took all day. And, he promised us pizza, which was sort of all it took a lot of the times for me. But sure enough, we cleaned out all the apartment. We took a lot of the artwork home, and, because a lot of it was going to get thrown out. And we took all the records home. And I was like, there was a lot of records. It's hard to remember now if it was truly a lot based on what I know now, or whether it was not that much. From what I remember, it was a lot, and I'll tell you why. So I took them home in the summer of '98. And at that point, I was just getting into jazz, and that's where this collection starts. And this collection was full of classic jazz. It was full of like 70s soul and funk and some rock, a lot of the rock. The rock, I took some of it's here, but so much of it was beat up. At the time, I even think I realized it. I was like, everything was trash. It was records without sleeves without records. Coincidentally, my dad was like, hey, this summer, you should start looking at these records, maybe try to sell them. He's like, I bet you could start using the internet. And I'm a little fuzzy on this. I don't think I did. I don't think the internet was totally a thing at that point where I would use it. But I started going through all these records, and I think within the next year or two, eBay started, and I started my eBay account. And I gotta say, it was 99 or 2000, and it was primarily to start selling these records. I remember I sold Black Sabbath records early on. I remember doing that for sure. I can't remember everything I sold, but a lot of it, I pulled out the stuff. I was like, this looks interesting. And I started selling a few things, and I don't remember the details of a lot of that, but I know I did sell some on eBay. And then I started investigating all the jazz. And the summer of '98, when I first got them, now I had a turntable and a receiver. I don't know where I got those from. Maybe they were in this house too. The point is, I started investigating all the jazz. And I'd already been just getting into jazz. I just started learning how to play alto sax. And I was all over the bebop guys. Charlie Parker, Bud Powell, of course Dizzy Gillespie, Mingus, Max Roach, the classic quartet or quintet, which is a record here. But I was like, I'm going to bring these records to college, and I did, and I brought however many it was, and I brought mostly jazz. I was only listening to jazz really at that point. I was in the college radio at my school, and I was sort of like, listening to a lot of the college radio, rock or whatever. But when it came to like at home, I was just listening to these jazz records, and some of the CDs I had too. But I remember sitting in this apartment with my friends and setting up a turntable and a record player, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, let's listen to these jazz records. So that was where it started. Right here is, it's not all of what I took from this collection. A lot of it, like I said, over the years, either got thrown out because I went through them. I did eventually go through all the records. Now the funny thing is, I brought them home in '98. I went home successively. Every few years I go home, I'd go through the collection again and pull out more stuff I was learning and pulling out other things I thought I wanted, realizing, oh wait, wow, there's this, and oh my god, there's this, and then realizing all this other stuff. My dad at some point wanted me to start getting rid of them, and I started throwing some out and giving some away and taking some with me. The last batch I went through, I think it was in 2013. It took me that long from, I wouldn't go home all that often, and when I wouldn't be necessarily thinking about taking records with me, which is funny because by 2005, 6, 7, by 2007, I was buying records again, and the record resurgence had started. Between 2000 and 2007 or 8, I was buying a lot of CDs, but right around that time is when I started buying records again, and augmenting with this collection that I had. But every time I go home, I pull a little bit more out. I bring them with me. And, I'm sure I got rid of things that were probably cool. I'm sure I sold things that were probably cool. I can't remember. It was a jazz, soul, and rock collection, from the 70s, 60s, and 70s, from this house in Brooklyn. However, I have kept a lot, and I'm going to show you what I have. I'm not going to go into depth on each one because I don't want this to be a long video. I want this to be about the story. So the last part I took, it was 2013 after we moved here to Ithaca, and I told my sister, I told my dad and my sister who were there, like, just put an ad up on Craigslist, get rid of all this stuff. Someone will come take it. I took one more batch home, and I'll show you the last. I thought, like, oh, there's nothing else in here, and there's one record in this pile I'm going to show you that I took from that. I'm glad I did. So my dad passed away 3 years ago, at the age of 84, and it was quick and sudden, so it was tough. But every time this time comes around, on this day, on his birthday, and on his birthday too, really, I think, when I'm thinking about him, I listen to these jazz records, and these are the records that came from this house, that from his cousin Gigi, and really through my dad. So my dad really got me collecting, but it wasn't my dad's collection. We didn't have a lot of records in my house growing up. It was a few, but I was sort of mainly the one that found that stuff, and like I said, all these records came from this house, and it started with this pile. So I'm going to go through them and just show them. There's some great stuff in here, and they're really important to me. Obviously, I would never trade or sell any of these. Even some of them aren't valuable, some of them are, but they're still never going anywhere. And it's primarily jazz. I'll show you a few of the rock records, the obvious ones. I didn't pull out everything from this early collection that I got from this house, but this is most of the cool stuff. And I've augmented my jazz collection to about, my jazz is about 300 LPs, not huge, but I have a lot of cool ones that I like, and I'm always looking for new ones, but these are the really important ones. So I'll just start going through these right now. This is Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers on Elektra stereo. This is just the Jazz Messengers. Cool to see the Elektra label like this. This is the Deep Groove. I listened to this one today. Art Blakey. Beautiful. Sonny Rollins, Freedom Suite. I listened to this one today. This is originally on Riverside. This is like, I think, 58. And this is, Deep Groove, RVG. mono copy. I loved Clifford Brown at this point, and I still do. This is Clifford Brown All-Stars, E-Mercy. All these are from late 50s, early 60s. Deep groove as well. I'll go through these quick. I've been doing long videos, so I'm trying not to do too long today. Studying Brown, Clifford Brown Max Roach. And Clifford Brown, if you don't know, died really young in a car accident. Great trumpet player, hard bop. When I was studying jazz in college, also on the E-Mercy Deep Groove. I was learning alto sax, but guitar was my instrument. But to make a long story short, a good friend of mine who I played with a lot loved Clifford Brown, and he would study his trumpet playing. This is a huge one. I have a couple. But for years and years, I only had this Ornette Coleman record. And this is Shape of Jazz to Come, a super important record. This is a super early pressing. I think it's the second on Atlantic with the white labels and the fan. There's Ornette. I love this cover with his plastic saxophone. I've since gotten Ornette, the other one on Atlantic, and I think maybe it's just those two I have. That's it. Here's one I played the heck out of. There wasn't a ton of John Coltrane there. See, there might have been, and maybe they were either really trash, or maybe I didn't take them. I can't remember what happened with everything, but I took the stuff I knew I liked. But I didn't just take anything just because. I sold some of it, which, whatever. This is Kenny Burrell and John Coltrane. This cover is kind of beat, but the record's in nice shape. It's on Prestige, and it's got Why Was I Born on it, which I was obsessed with. I loved it. On the Prestige label. I think this is the first label actually on this. Coltrane Sound. It's on the purple and orange, I guess. Atlantic stereo, right? Oh no, this is mono. Forget if this is the first time, but just a stunning cover. Different name on the back. Musings of Miles. This is a very first pressing. Prestige. Cover is not the best, but I mean, I just remember seeing this and being like, wow. This is Prestige Deep Groove as well. Four and more. Miles Davis. And on the Columbia 2i, that's stereo. This is a cool one. I don't think I've seen anyone show this one. Tiny Grimes with the Coleman Hawkins Blues Groove. Love these old thick sleeves. Like I said, these are mostly from the late 50s. This is another Deep Groove Prestige RVG. Like I said, these records are super important to me, even if I'm sort of into more adventurous jazz now. They mean a lot. I'm still looking for a sleeve. I kept this all these years because I love Thelonious Monk, and this is Brilliant Corners. It's a first mono, deep groove and everything, so the record's in decent shape for these pressings. Pretty good. So I'm looking for a Brilliant Corners cover. If anyone's got one. This is just a Monk Club edition of Monk's Miracles. Nice record. I remember having a few other Monk records. Another Ornette, like Ornette's the orchestral on Skies Over America. I sold that. That was in there. And some other Monk record. I forget what it was. That was from the collection, but I didn't keep it. This was the most important one to me at the time because I was just obsessed with these five giants of jazz. Jazz at Massey Hall on debut or on Fantasy. But I was also blown away by this, which you don't see much early red vinyl, but yeah, this is from 1957, I think it is. The performance is like, I don't know if it's that well recorded. I mean, it's recorded in the late 50s, so obviously technology's gotten better, but I just was like, wow, all these guys playing together. What a cool thing. Trombone Workshop. This is a weird one. This is like a French pressing. It's Kai Winding, J.J. Johnson, Charles Mingus. That's probably why I kept it, because I was really into him. John Lewis, Benny Green, Willie Dennis, and Art Taylor on the debut label. Not a valuable record, but cool. I was like, wow, trombones, all trombones. Okay. Mingus changes too. Just a pretty. This is one of his mid-70s Atlantic records. There was a lot of Charlie Parker. I only kept a few. I'll just show this real quick. This is in mono. You want to have some of these records in mono on Verve. This is just the essential Charlie Parker. So this is a key thing to have. And this one too, the Happy Bird on Charlie Parker Records, right? Yeah. Jimmy Smith, The Sermon. This is not a valuable record, but this is the very first Blue Note with the ear and deep groove. Got the inner sleeve too. Great. I think the record's not in great shape, but what a cover. Classic soul jazz. And The Rock. I'll just show these quick. Rolling Stones, Some Girls. My copy of Exile on Main Street was in there. And I know, that's the funny thing, is I know that these were from there because I still have the original plastic sleeves. They're like a little bit oversized. And I can tell that these are the ones that are too big that I kept from this collection. Because these are the first plastic sleeves I ever got. You can kind of see the wear. Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin. And I got more Zeppelin, but yeah. And the last record is the one that I pulled out of the very final pull from this collection when then I gave everything away. And I knew at this point, I'm like, oh, at the point that I was initially going through these, I'm like, I probably would have easily missed this and not gotten it, but this is a super cool record. It's Kid Balton and Tom Disavelt, aka the Electrosonics, on Philips. This is mono. Super great, spectacular, interstellar, early electronic composers. This is totally bizarre and amazing. I don't remember the year, it doesn't say it here, but Disavelt and Kid Balton would do some other, you can look them up, they did a bunch of other things, but this is sort of an early production by them. Electronic music, Electrosonics. And just a beautiful cover. It's one of those things, like I said, initially I would have not really, I'm surprised I didn't just think it was nothing and get rid of it, but it's in nice enough shape, probably VG or VG plus, maybe VG, but it plays great, like a lot of the pressings from the early 60s. That was from the last pile, and then that was it, but that's it. That's my vinyl origin story, thinking about my dad, and yeah, just wanted to share that. That's something I've been meaning to talk about, and wanted to pay tribute to him with these records that are really important to me. And that's it. Seeking a Thread. Thanks again for everyone for your comments and support. And I got more coming up. I got a lot of good ideas I want to do. And that's about it. Take care. Hey, just a quick note. I meant to mention that I did my 200th radio show episode. It was all about these jazz records, and I talked a little bit more about the story. So I'm going to leave a link to that radio show below about these records, and you can hear some of the music. Take care.